brain will be hurt by lots of data, lots of science. You need lots of concentration, I know that. But I'll lead you through this, and I hope you can carry a lot of it back home and tell your partners in the synergy downline. I want to start with an image. Picture. It's a famous picture from a medical textbook of a person who obviously is in quite bad shape. And I wish you all that you never get into this bad shape. This person has a heart attack. And here on the right side you see his coronary artery. No, it's not his coronary artery. That's a healthy coronary artery. This is what Frank Gester already told you, atherosclerosis. This is a diseased coronary artery. But it's still not the one of this person here, because the blood is still flowing in such an artery. This person here has a completely occluded artery. He has a heart attack, he has a myocardial infarction. Quite obviously, there's a very good chance that this person will die. And if you look into the statistics of Western and Central Europe, of the US, of the whole of the Western world, 50 to 60% of the population will die from heart attack and stroke. So looking around here, we have maybe 300 or 400 people here. 200 of you will die of heart attack or stroke. Or if I go individually through the rows, I'll say 1, 2, 1, 2, every second will die of heart attack. And the mission must be to prevent this. Now, if we want to prevent it, we have to ask what are the reasons for heart attack and stroke. And this carries us back hundreds of thousands of years into the evolution, and you see how mankind went through evolution. Formed to be a hunter, to be chasing, to be running, to be fighting. And look around you. Look your neighbors, look your friends, look your relatives. Are they hunting? Are they chasing? Well, they are living the Western style. And this is the Western style. Quite obviously that's not healthy, but the question is, why is it not healthy? What's the bad about it? And that takes us into biology, into the molecules in our body. And that's where the science begins. All that you understand by Western lifestyle, fast food, lots of sugar, lots of fat, lack of exercise, diabetes, and so on, smoking, that all initiates a cascade in the body that's called the generation of free radicals. Free radicals means that this all that act into the body changes benignant molecules into toxic free radicals. Well, maybe that's true, but should that be dangerous or not, you never know. It is dangerous because we can show that such a radical will attack another benignant molecule and change this into another radical. And it will change another molecule into a next radical, and so on. It's a chain reaction that comes into turn. And this will push the pathology forward. If you stick to such a lifestyle like we all do for decades and decades, this will end in atherosclerosis, in hypertension, in diabetes, and finally heart attack, stroke, and death. So if we can put a stop sign on here, we can prevent a major portion of this. And the question is, how will this work? Well, to better give you the message as a take-home message, I would say a toxic radical is a molecule with a license to kill. And you all will know someone who has the license to kill from the cinema. I've brought the photograph with me. This is a film, this specific film Live and Let Die is something you should look at. There's a sequence in there of 1 or 2 minutes which is very impressive. Because here, James Bond is being taught by his chief that the lifestyle he leads to too many radicals that hurt his body. Okay? What's the consequence? Does he prescribe him a medication? No. He asks him to do exercise and to do dietary intervention. Well, that's a perspective. Dietary intervention, that's what we are doing. And obviously others in cinema do the same, and it works. I'll show you that it works. This must go on. Okay. So what we need is by some intervention, by diet, by specific factors that we can identify with the help of our science, to put a stop sign onto this chain reaction and save the molecules, the cells, the organs, the arteries from being destroyed, from dying from atherosclerosis. Basically, that's what atherosclerosis is all about. And the question is, what is the most important molecule that is this stop sign in the body? And that's a very small, very tiny molecule called nitric oxide. You all have heard about nitric oxide from pollution, from what a car busts out at the end. Here, there's a lot of nitric oxide in there. It's toxic in the environment. And it was a big surprise to all of us, to all the scientists, to see that this same small molecule is present in all our bodies, in the arteries. In these arteries, nitric oxide is formed as well. It's released into the bloodstream, and this is not a pollutant, it's a protector. And I'll show you how that works. This nitric oxide protects the artery from all the toxic influences. It protects from all the other cells, the inflammatory cells, the immune cells, the blood platelets that cause inflammation, that cause thrombosis, that hurt the artery, that push the atherosclerosis. It protects the artery from toxic radicals. It protects the lipids from being oxidized, because only the oxidized lipids are harmful for the artery. So the question is, how can we promote nitric oxide in our body? And for that we need to understand how nitric oxide is being formed. You see it here. There's a small protein in the vessel wall that makes nitric oxide, and it makes this nitric oxide from arginine. Here we are. Dietary intervention. Well, I could say that is my story, thank you for being here. But I think it's worthwhile to look a little deeper into the science and show you some clinical studies, some results that we and others have gathered with people who underwent treatment with arginine, who took arginine dietary intervention for longer times, and what came out of it. And that's what I'm up to here in the next minutes. When I studied medicine, I looked into the textbooks of radiology, and I was shown these images of the artery system. It's a radiograph of the artery system of the human body. And we learned how each of these arteries is named, and I forgot all about this, but still. Then I moved into clinical practice, into a clinic where people were treated who were sick. And I looked at the radiographs that we had from our patients. And they look quite different. So, when I was younger, I started to ask myself, why is this difference between the textbooks, how it should look, and the reality that we see? And I turned out to find out that the difference is decades of Western lifestyle. You must imagine that the blood vessel system is quite different from the water tubing that we all have in our houses. Because when you need lots of water and tubes, the pressure in the system is increased. In our body it's different. When you do exercise and the muscle needs more blood, it's not the pressure that increases, the blood pressure that increases, it's the arteries that widen. So arteries must be flexible. They are not stiff like a water tube. They are flexible. And this flexibility is what makes a healthy artery. You can see here, it's an ultrasonography image of a person resting at the left side, basal state. And you see the diameter of the artery. And then on the right side, you have repeated that after having him exercise for a couple of minutes. You see the same artery at the same place in the arm, it's wider. This is flexibility. This is how the body helps you direct the blood to where it's needed and not let it flow to where it's not needed at the moment. So a healthy artery is high elasticity, is young, smooth, flexible. And with all the Western lifestyle, with all the stress, with all the smoking, with all the sugar that we have, from year to year the arteries are getting more stiff. And that promotes high blood pressure. Because when the arteries are not flexible anymore, the body has to react by increasing the blood pressure in order to get the blood where it's needed. No other way. So the protection from heart disease and hypertension would be to keep your arteries flexible. I'll show you another image. It's taken in a cath lab by a cardiologist. This is a coronary artery of the heart. You see the control situation on the left side, and then they infuse the substance on the right side. What happens there is the artery dilates, it's wider there. You can easily see the difference between left and right side, right? You see it? Why is it wider? Because this substance releases NO from the vessel. And the NO widens the artery. I have another patient up here. The same experiment, if you want. The same infusion. But this artery is smaller afterwards and not wide. This is a patient with coronary artery disease, with heart attack. He has no NO. He cannot dilate. The artery cannot dilate. The person maybe is dilated, maybe. So this is the reason why some people have vasospasm and heart attack and others don't. Those who don't have enough nitric oxide, those who have a lack of nitric oxide. Well, and arginine is the basis of it. But I must tell you that the story is not such easy as I thought it. Well, 10-15 years ago, it's more complicated. Biology is always more complicated than we think at the beginning. And it's complicated because there is another small molecule in the body. It's called ADMA. It has a long chemical name that you will forget, and I have forgot for long. I've trained that for years. But the abbreviation is easy, ADMA. ADMA puts a block on the generation of nitric oxide. Everybody here in the room has ADMA in his or her blood. Some of you have more than others. What makes the difference? Well, if you see a person who has high ADMA, the NO generation is blocked. There's less NO, there's less vasodilatation, there's less elasticity. And the arginine cannot work anymore because the pathway it takes to be converted into NO is just simply stopped, blocked. This molecule is harmful to the body. And this can be overcome by increasing the arginine again. Because these two compete with each other. When you increase the arginine, this fraction is stronger. They can distract the ADMA from the enzyme. And these lots of arginine that come from dietary sources will increase the NO, will increase the vasodilatation, and return the situation to normal. That basically is how arginine works. And that is how you can find out how well it will work in a certain person. Because you can measure this ADMA, you can measure arginine, you can calculate how their concentrations are in relation to each other. And when you do this, you can easily identify within a group of people like you are here, who is in real need of arginine and who needs, let's say, a higher dosage than another person. So, summarizing this, and I've said NO is an anti-atherogenic molecule, a protector of the body. We can say vice versa, the ADMA is a pro-atherogenic molecule. All that is beneficial about NO is harmful about this molecule ADMA. We have worked on this very strongly when I was at Stanford University in the laboratory of John Cook, who is a pioneer of arginine research in the US and worldwide. And we were able to identify that within a group of healthy persons who had no symptoms whatsoever of heart disease, we could identify a few who had high ADMA. It was a group of people who had high cholesterol too. So, to finally convince you that ADMA is harmful, I show you data of an experiment. See the group on the right side, the healthy subjects. When you infuse ADMA into these people, what happens? I've brought you the data. And you see on the left, in the upper graph, it's the function of the heart. And you see that the heart function is decreased from 6 to 5 units, which is almost 20% less activity of the heart after you infuse ADMA. On the lower graph, you see that the resistance that the peripheral arteries have against the bloodstream is increased from 1200 to 1500 by 1/4. How can the heart manage to work against this resistance, and at the same time there's 20% less energy for the heart? It cannot. There's another group here in Germany who did a similar experiment and found exactly the same result. It was both not in our laboratory, but very impressive data. So, obviously, when you look into the group of healthy subjects here on the right, you see that even within these groups there's a big variability. Some with very low levels, some with somewhat higher levels. Does this make a difference? We've done a big study to look at that. And I must tell you that whenever you have to undergo surgery in the abdomen or surgery at the big vessels, you are in a risky situation. Everybody knows that no one wants to undergo surgery. Everybody fears that because you have the stomach feeling that you're in a risky situation there. Well, that is true. And what we did is try to find out, can we identify those who are really the ones at risk and those who are not so much at risk by measuring this small molecule ADMA. What you see here in the graph is a green, a blue, and a red line. The green line is the group of people with low ADMA. The red line is the group of people with high ADMA, and the blue ones are in the middle. And you clearly see the steeper the line falls, the more of the patients have had some complication. Quite obviously, this is a molecule, when you measure it before the surgery, you can have a risk prediction. How high is the probability that I will have a complication or not? Well, it's nice, not everybody undergoes surgery. So let's go here to Dusseldorf Königsallee, go over the street and pick the people as they are from the population, measure their ADMA, and then look what happens to them. Well, we've done that, not in Düsseldorf on the Königsallee, but in a small town near Boston, on the east coast of the US, in the little town of Framingham. We've taken 3,200 people from the population, we've drawn their blood, and then let them go for more than 10 years. And we've just recorded who dies and who does not die. The result of it is, as you see here, there's a flap, there's a line, and this line shows the higher your ADMA, the more you are to the right side, the higher the risk of dying is. I'll make it more precise. The mean in this group for this ADMA was 0.55. Let's imagine someone has 0.8 as the level in the laboratory measurement. This means that as compared to someone with 0.55, he has a 50% higher risk of dying. That's incredible. And the important thing for you is that this ADMA does not stand alone. This ADMA is a risk predictor. It's an important diagnostic molecule for us. But it only works in association with the arginine, because it works by displacing the arginine from the enzyme that makes nitric oxide. Don't forget it. This is a busy graph, and I have to lead you through this. This graph shows that from low to high ADMA, the risk of mortality is increasing. You see the bars are getting bigger and bigger the more you go to the back, to those with a high ADMA. We have calculated the arginine blood concentration of these people too. And you see one thing here quite clearly. The smallest bar is in those who have low ADMA and high arginine. And the highest bar, the highest mortality, is in those who have high ADMA, but at the same time very low arginine. So it's not ADMA alone. It's the interplay with arginine. And you can modify the risk by modifying the arginine concentration. You cannot do much about ADMA, it's genetic, there's no drug treatment for it yet, I must say. Currently we have arginine to modulate that risk. So what we do is we calculate the relative concentration of arginine to ADMA, and let's assume this is 100, the person up there has 30, that makes the difference. Now you can do some maths yourselves. You can calculate how much you increase your arginine to come to 100 again. And then take a few scoops of it every day. And that's the perspective in it. That's the great message about this internationally published scientific study. Okay, once more. High ADMA means high risk. Low ADMA means low risk. This is laboratory diagnostic. But low ADMA only means low risk when, at the same time, your arginine is high. So take care to keep your arginine high. That's the message for today. And here you see it again. The ratio of arginine to ADMA is high in healthy volunteers. And it's low in patients who have peripheral arterial disease, who have pain in their legs when walking, who have necrosis of that tooth, who get amputation and other really bad operations. We have developed a laboratory test that's easy to handle. It works with a filter pump. I have it here ready to show you. You have a small needle in there to pick in the tip of your finger, drop one single drop of blood onto a filter card, do it 6 times, send the card to the laboratory, you get your ADMA, you get your arginine. This helps you to decide, am I at risk? And it helps you decide, what is my arginine? And then take the arginine and redo the test a few weeks later, and you will see that the ADMA probably has not changed much, but the arginine is much higher. And when we calculate the arginine to ADMA ratio, you will have a much more beneficial laboratory bound. This is something for you to check out the risk. This is something for your downline to be convinced, yes, stick to the arginine. Keep on taking it. I have a few handouts with me. I'll leave them with you. It's up here. And my friend Mark has some, and we'll have some in the back later on. It's a website. On the back, it indicates a website. You can order these tests. If you want to use them for yourself, for your family, for your friends, for your downline. And I can tell you, I have had a family recently. A young woman, a young man, and they came to me, asked for the ADMA test. And they brought their mother with them. And I took the blood from all three, sent it to our laboratory, got the results back, and then I called them, and I asked your mother, she has heart disease. And the answer was, oh yeah, we forgot to say, she had threefold bypass surgery a couple of years ago. So we saw it in the letters. The ADMA was high, the arginine was low, and her daughter, who was healthy at the time of blood draw, she had high ADMA, low arginine too. I can tell her, you're on the track to heart attack. Keep on going, and you'll have a heart attack in the next 5 or 10 years. What did they do? They hooked on proarginine, and they keep on going with it. And we'll test them this month, and on the next convention I'll come back with their results. I guess they will be much better. So this is the test. It looks a little different in the US. My dear friend Mark Rosales, who is also a synergy partner in the US, a well-known synergy partner in the US, is in the room. We have partnered with this, and the design is different in the US, the name is different in the US, the technology, the science is the same, the results is the same, and there's another website for all those who are not from Central Europe, which may be more convenient to order via this website, the other one is in Germany, so you can decide. It's the same science, it's the same story. Mark, I can say, you told me the story about someone in your downline who told you, well, I am taking the proarginine. And you did the test on it, remember? And there we saw the data, and we discussed that, and his arginine level was only 7 or 9. You called him and asked him, do you take the proarginine? And he said, yes. And then you asked him, how often do you take it? And he said, well, it's good every 3 to 4 days. Okay, you got it. And recently we talked on the phone and he told me he's now taking 2 scoops every day. Okay. 4 scoops every day. Okay. Please retest it. Okay. And this is how you can identify people who need this. How you can motivate them to continue taking this. And how to show them how to improve their vascular health. This is, for me, a very important development in medical science, in cardiology, which is useful for you as well. And because it is so easy to use, everybody can do this. Now let's come back to what the effects of arginine are. This is an animal experiment. And we induced atherosclerosis in animals. You see at the top a healthy animal, it's the aorta. Frank showed a photograph from a human aorta. This is a rabbit aorta. It's healthy. The lower one is a rabbit that has atherosclerosis. Can you see the plaque there, the white areas? All this is disease. What we did, we treated some of these rabbits with a strong pharmaceutical drug, with a lipid-lowering drug, a statin. Many of you will know what a statin is. And we treated the other half of these animals with arginine. Just put a little arginine in drinking water, dietary intervention, like you do it every day. And I have another photograph. The top one is an atherosclerotic artery from a rabbit that was not treated. The lower one is not a control rabbit, it's an atherosclerotic rabbit treated with arginine. I don't see any atherosclerosis anymore. And the statin that the pharmaceutical industry promotes so heavily doesn't do more than this. We used it in the same experiment. It turned out to be exactly the same effect. Arginine is really a strong dietary intervention. That led us to take the arginine into human studies. And I come back to the group of people from Stanford, the high ADMA. We gave them L-arginine. You see here what flow-induced vasodilatation, which is on the axis, is a measure of the elasticity of an artery. You see that those with a high ADMA have low elasticity, and the other group with low ADMA has high elasticity. The blue range is what should be normal. Clearly, those with a high ADMA are below the normal range. Then we infuse arginine into them, and we push them into the normal range. The elasticity came back because they were asymptomatic. They were not in the latest stage. They were in an early stage where these changes can be reversed still. And that's very important to me, to intervene with arginine as early as possible. Not to wait until someone is sick, but early. Well, John Cook wrote a book about this, The Cardiovascular Cure, which certainly is one of the best books on arginine I've ever seen, and Mark told me the same. Mark, you were involved with John Cook at that time, and I was in his lab at the time. Well, he asked me to be part of the company that he founded to promote arginine at that time, but I had to go back to Germany and I was unable to do so. A little later I learned that he sold his company that was running well, and he made more than $40 million on it. Well, I should have decided otherwise. And in the book, if you have an opportunity to read, in his book, the reason he says why arginine works is because it attacks the ADMA that we have in the body. It's the same story. And there's another very nice guy, also a friend of mine from Hamburg, Frank Gester, who has another book. You've heard about that. And he also talks about arginine and the results that we are talking about, that we are currently generating in our studies. Now, I said we turned from rabbits to humans, and we looked what arginine does to blood flow in patients with disease. You see the blue line, the blood flow in a leg which is malperfused increases to normal levels. And when we look with a computer tomography and we measure blood flow with radioactive tracer methods, it's a very complicated method. I don't understand anything about that. It was a colleague who did that. I just gave him the arginine. We can show, like you see here, you see the scale on the right. Red color means good blood flow, blue color means bad blood flow. This is a patient with hurt in his legs because of the lack of blood flow, peripheral arterial disease. It's all blue and green. No wonder that he cannot walk. Then we gave him arginine, and we retested him. Well, and it's all red and yellow. The symptoms improved, and we saw that, and then decided, okay, let's do a therapy. Let's treat him and others for not only one day, but for 3 weeks in a row, and look what comes out of it. And when we do that, and we compare it by the strongest pharmaceutical treatment that is on the market, which is PGE1, a substance that is used by medical doctors to treat peripheral disease of the arteries. And you see the effect that this PGE1 has. We said in that trial, we'll compare it with arginine. And the arginine was better. Well, you can trust me, no one really wanted to hear that. The pharmaceutical company chased me for that. We still published it. And, well, this is not the only study. Many other groups found similar results. It is a substance that reverses the situation of the vessels to normal. It doesn't do more. Like a blood pressure lowering drug that can lower the blood pressure so low that you collapse. It's still not happening with arginine. It normalizes the physiological situation. But it's strong. For me, the most important question is when to use it, when to start taking it. And I've had many discussions with patients and with colleagues, and many of those said, well, I don't have heart attack, I can wait. But you must understand that heart disease doesn't come out of nothing. Heart disease is a process. Takes decades to develop, and it all starts with risk factors at the very beginning. Ask yourself about your risk factors: hypertension, blood sugar, blood lipids, smoking, diabetes, AMA, other risk factors. Do you have one? Do you have two? Do you have three of them? Do you still feel healthy? You are on the road. And you see, this all leads to infarction, heart disease, chronic heart failure, and finally death. When we look what arginine does, there's quite clear, very clear evidence that at the beginning, there's nothing better than taking arginine. The more you move on, the more the situation becomes controversial in the scientific community. And at the end, there are studies where people have shown the arginine doesn't do anything. Well, tell me, when an artery is occluded, how would you open it with arginine? How would you open it with any other drug? No one has shown that this works. So, no wonder. But still, when someone has heart attack here, he also has arteries in his kidneys, in the legs, in the brain. Don't forget the brain. And you can still protect these organs by taking arginine at that stage. And when you look at those organs, you can see that even in the late stage, there is a beneficial effect of the arginine. So, don't wait until you are in this situation. Don't wait until you cry for emergency medicine. Don't wait until this stage. You must come up early and do what is in the next slide. Put on some sun lotion. I hope that I could convince you by now that what the sun lotion is for our skin, the arginine is for our vessels. Decide yourself whether your health, your skin is important and your vessels are not. I think it's quite clear to everybody here in the room that arginine is important. And if I have brought you to this stage and you all agree to me, then we come up with the next question. And I looked into the internet and looked what kind of arginine do we find in Germany alone. Well, there's a lot of it. Which one? The question is easy. You may think it's difficult. It is easy. Because when your doctor prescribes you arginine, many doctors don't do, but those who do, and those who prescribe you one of these will tell you this. And the answer will be, okay, I'll go and get 3 guys to carry that bottle with me. Well, it's fun, but there's science behind it, and I'll tell you the science behind it. Why does this doctor recommend to take the arginine 6 times a day? Because the science shows, and we have published that in a scientific journal as early as 1998, that as much as half of the arginine that someone takes will disappear within 1 hour and 15 minutes. If you continue that, you can say that by 4 hours, none of the arginine is left. So if you want to keep your arginine high all day, and the day has more than 4 hours for most of us, we have to take the arginine 6 to 8 times a day. That means every 3 to 4 hours, day and night. For how long could you stand that? I couldn't stand that. And then imagine, I mean, you're here in Dusseldorf, very few of you are living in Dusseldorf, you are traveling. Imagine how heavy your luggage is when you're traveling and you have to take 25 capsules 6 times a day. Let's do it differently. Let's use an optimized formulation. And you may ask, what is an optimized formulation? I tell you what I think, for me, what an optimized formulation is. It is one that I'm required to take once or twice a day a week, which fits into my daily life, and not one which forces me to fit myself into what this drug wants me to do, or what this dietary supplement, or whatever wants me to do. It's not only with arginine, it's with any other treatment. I'm working, I'm traveling, I have kids, I have family, I want to go with them, and don't think, oh, I have to pay wherever I am. So, in the morning and the evening, fine. Well, okay, how do we do that? We all who have studied medicine have had some lectures in biochemistry, and years back when I was sitting in the lecture hall in biochemistry, I was looking around. Many of the other students, well, don't tell it others for sleeping. Those who did not sleep may know the answer, because there's a trick here in this pathway. The citrulline can be converted to arginine. This happens in the liver. So when you give a person citrulline to eat or to drink, the citrulline will be absorbed in the stomach, in the intestine, go to the liver, and there be converted to arginine. Of course, this process takes some time. It's not quick. Now, we did a study a few years ago to find out whether this really works. We gave to a group of people a scoop of arginine, and then 1 week later, a scoop of citrulline. And we looked what their arginine level in blood did. I'll show you the data. This is the curves. There's a lot of different groups. I'll highlight 2. The red one is the arginine level in blood after a scoop of arginine. You see it goes sky high and comes down very quickly. The green line is after a scoop of citrulline. It comes up slowly, not so high. It must be converted in the liver. It takes time. But it stays high for a longer time. So, that may be the solution. And we hypothesized recently, Frank Yester and myself, that the combination of arginine plus citrulline, as it is in proarginine, results in a prolonged elevation of plasma levels, more prolonged than arginine alone. And we did a study. Frank mentioned the study, and the people who are in the study, many of them are in the room, I saw. We did a study that's still ongoing. We took you as participants, and we studied you on separate days, giving you arginine powder that we had from the hospital pharmacy in the university where I worked, put it in capsules and gave it to swallow, then measured the arginine. And on another day, gave you the proarginine and did the same. And then, Frank mentioned it, put you on this treatment proarginine plus or minus the Mystify and Phytolife for 6 weeks to see how the elasticity of the arteries improves. We don't have the data yet. I have brought with me for today what I can show, what I have from our lab, and that is the first interim results from the first quarter of participants. It's not final, it will change, but I thought, well, I was curious and thought, well, let's have a look and let you share this data. This is the data so far. You see in red that the arginine level after the intake of proarginine. You see in blue the arginine level after the intake of some whatever arginine powder. Well, you may not easily understand what these curves should tell you, and I'll show you. Well, let's take the level of arginine at the beginning in the blue group, and just look when the arginine level has returned to baseline again. It's here, at 3 hours. Let's take the baseline level in the pro-arginine group, and let's look when the arginine level returned to baseline again in the pro-arginine group. It's there. And at the bottom you see it's 12 hours. So there's a big difference between these two. And there's a clear differentiation that this product is better than any other you can order in some fancy online shop or pharmacy or whatever. You never know what you get, but here you know. Here's the science behind it. It's a combination of arginine and a little citrulline that's in there. That makes the difference. That prolongs the plasma level elevation. And 12 hours elevation means you can take it twice a day and you're well. So, this is a German cartoon, and it says, I'm away, German. So obviously there were 3 elderly friends sitting there, and one is left. But if you look exactly, he has left something behind. Can you imagine what that is? Yeah. So the only question I want you to ask yourselves is this your place, or is one of the others what you will be in a couple of years, a couple of decades? Think about it. But if you have made your decision, be careful, don't jump too long, don't leave your dog behind, unattended, because you may come back like this. And when you see your pet sitting there like this, be suspicious. What did he do while you were talking? Well, I'll tell you. Hey, listen. It took a little scoop. And then he started to sing, and I think we have it here. I feel good. Thank you for your attention.